With Andy Griffith playing the widowed sheriff of sleepy fictional town Mayberry, North Carolina, Andy Taylor alongside his bumbling deputy, Barney Fife, played by Don Knotts, The Andy Griffith Show managed to earn itself a place in TV history. From October 3, 1960 to April 1, 1968, the show aired 249 half-hour episodes over the course of 8 award-winning seasons. If you've been a fan of this channel for a while, you've probably already seen a few videos we've done that have delved into all the reasons why the characters of The Andy Griffith Show are among some of the most iconic of all time. In this video, we'll take a very different look. Join Facts First as we discuss the character flaws you never noticed in The Andy Griffith Show. Andy struggled to keep it all together. In the last 3 seasons of the show, it becomes abundantly clear that Andy was the only sane man in his beloved town of Mayberry. While he wouldn't say an ill word about his fellow townsfolk, viewers started to see Taylor's patience wearing thin during these final few years of the program. So much so, it even started seeming like he was harboring some kind of contempt for the ragtag group of eccentrics that inhabited the town. Andy was no saint. We'll give Andy a pass on that last point, as he had a lot on his plate after Barney Fife was out of the picture. Not that he ever helped much in the first place. One thing Andy should have known better not to do, however, was smoke. On several occasions, we got to see Andy puff away on a cigar. Andy started off as a bit of a country bumpkin. Andy changed a lot throughout the show's run. In the first season, he was portrayed as being somewhat of a simpleton. He had a lot more twang in his voice, too. Over the years, his character evolved to be much more of an authoritative straight man. Another interesting change-up that most people never seemed to question was Barney and Andy's relationship. In the first 2 episodes, they are said to be cousins, while Barney was meant to be the naive buffoon. Barney always seemed to be in a jam. Barney always had good intentions. We're certainly not questioning his genuineness, but we do take fault with his execution. On more than a few occasions, his attempt to catch a criminal in hiding went awry, leading to his capture. Many of these situations resulted in the poor guy getting bound and gagged. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like, and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already, and stick around for more character flaws in The Andy Griffith Show. Barney was the ultimate bumbling sidekick. One of the oldest TV tropes in the book is the bumbling sidekick. This character is typically a high-strung, annoying, and incompetent person who plays second fiddle to the show's lead. Commonly, this lead will find themselves in a position where they're constantly having to clean up after their dim-witted sidekick's messes. Barney was the epitome of this character. To call him hapless is putting it lightly. While he tried to pass himself off as a master of his craft, someone who never let any shenanigans take place under his watchful eye, in reality he couldn't find his way out of a paper bag. Barney was also the ultimate butt monkey. A butt monkey is someone who goes through life seemingly with a giant kick me sign plastered to their back. They always seem to find themselves as the butt of countless demeaning jokes. Nothing they do ever seems to go right, and they never can quite come to grips why this is. To them, they aren't the problem, the rest of the world is. If you've ever seen The Andy Griffith Show, you know this description fits Barney Fife to a T. He could never seem to figure out why everyone was always snickering at him. He took his job seriously, perhaps too seriously. Maybe if he were competent enough to achieve his aims, then his work ethic would have been justified. But since he spent the majority of his time dropping the ball, the only thing we as an audience could do was laugh. In the end, Barney Fife wasn't a character anyone hated. He had his moments and undeniably the best of intentions. It was this heart of gold yet mind of a toddler dynamic that made him one of the best TV sidekicks of all time. Fife's character took on a life of its own. The clueless deputy trope has repeatedly found its way into other series like Monk, Psych, Reno 911, Three's Company, and Twin Peaks. Barney was a terrible singer. On several episodes, Fife hoped to join the church choir. Unfortunately, Barney couldn't hold a note to save his life. Generously, the other choir members did their best to dismiss his ineptitude with grace. In real life, however, Don Knotts was actually a pretty alright singer who had a decent baritone voice. Opie had a jealous streak. There's no denying it, Opie was a daddy's boy. He adored his father and practically idolized the guy. After Opie's mother passed, he and his father got to spend a lot of time with each other. And while bonding is never a bad thing, things can get problematic when people start getting territorial. When Andy started dating Peggy, Opie turned green with jealousy and started trying to sabotage their relationship to keep his dad to himself. Not a good look, Opie. Opie was easily swayed. Opie was almost always in a cheerful mood, and his heart, like Barney's, was always in the right place. Unfortunately, he could also be a bit naive at times. He occasionally found himself caught up in mischief, typically when one of his buddies turned out to be a bad influence. While his moral compass generally pointed in the right direction, he could still be tricked into doing what was wrong whenever some kind of snake-tongued troublemaker came around. Aunt Bee had a thing for bad boys. In the first several seasons of the show, Aunt Bee wound up falling for men who turned out to be world-class jerks. Fortunately, by the time the show started airing in color, she was able to find happiness with more respectable men like a professor and a congressman. Aunt Bee's pickles were atrocious. Normally, Aunt Bee was a pretty good cook. We can imagine she was able to whip up some downright delicious southern delicacies, and she knew her way around a kitchen. In the episode The Pickle Story, however, no one wanted to be the one to break it to her that her homemade pickles were so bad they might have well been lethal. According to Barney, they tasted like kerosene. Instead of being honest with her, Andy went out and bought a slew of store-bought pickles to secretly swap them out. The plot thickened, however, when Aunt Bee got it in her mind to enter her latest recipe into the county fair pickle contest. Knowing it would have been unfair to enter store-bought pickles, Andy and company had to eat every last one of the fraudulent pickles, so Aunt Bee was forced to make another batch for the contest. Ernest T. Bass nearly killed innocent people. When Ernest was explicitly told by Andy in the episode Malcolm at the Crossroads not to throw rocks at cars while he was working as a crossing guard, he decided to take his words a little too literally and started throwing bricks instead. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the process, but as you should already know, taking to throwing anything at moving vehicles, especially bricks, can potentially lead to disastrous, if not deadly, consequences. Now it's time to hear from you. Can you think of any other glaringly obvious flaws that plagued the characters of the Andy Griffith Show? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts Verse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.